For from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. Every time I listen to today's gospel or read it, reflect on it as I have this past week, it always brings a smile to my face. And the smile that is generated is because, of course, I try to imagine all of us gathered here today as we are with wooden beams sticking out of our eyes. And if you try to imagine that, which I hope you do, because we don't need to do much imagining, do we? Because, truth be told, the wooden beams are large and they are present in every one of our eyes. I'm guessing those first disciples probably got a smile on their face as well as Jesus was telling them today's gospel parable. And I think the smile that was generated on their faces was due to the fact that I'm sure they probably thought to themselves, only the child of a carpenter could teach a valuable lesson about life by using the images of splinters and beams. Jesus certainly knew wood, his way around wood, quite well. But he also knew his way around the human heart. And that is what today's parable is all about. It's about getting to the heart of the matter. For the fullness of one's heart, from the fullness of one's heart, the mouth speaks. So you and I are invited to reflect today about how our hearts are filled and what they are filled with. And we don't need to think too much about it because, of course, why today's parable, its story, ends with the fact that how our lips move and the words that we speak are oftentimes a reflection of what fills our hearts. And so as we think about that, we realize that you and I have much work to do. There's a story about Gandhi, and we're all familiar with Gandhi and the incredible work that he did in his life as a peacemaker. And the story is told that a grandmother came to Gandhi one day and said to him, "My granddaughter eats way too much sugar. You need to tell her to stop it." And Gandhi looked at the grandmother and said, "Bring her to me next week." And so the grandmother brought her granddaughter to Gandhi the following week. And when they got there, Gandhi put them off and he said, "Bring her back to me next week." And he did that 3 consecutive weeks, putting the grandmother off, telling her to bring her back the next week. Finally, Gandhi welcomed the grandmother and her granddaughter into his midst, and he looked at the little girl and he said, "Sugar is not good for you. You need to stop eating it." And the grandmother was anything but impressed. As a matter of fact, out of frustration, she looked at Gandhi and she said, "You tell me after 4 weeks, after waiting for 4 weeks, that's all you're going to tell my granddaughter is that sugar's not good for you, you should stop eating it?" And Gandhi said with a sigh, he said, "It's taken me 4 weeks to stop eating so much sugar. It's taken me 4 weeks to stop eating so much sugar." The moral of that story is that we can only be of help to our neighbor. We can only be of help to our neighbor when we're able to tell the story of our own struggles. We can only be of help to our neighbor when we can tell the stories of our own struggles. And think about it. Who Who have been the most influential teachers in your life? And teachers, by that I mean more than just those who taught us in the academic world. I'm talking about life's teachers, whether those be parents or grandparents or relatives or friends or co-workers or bosses or whoever it is. But who are the most influential teachers in your life? And haven't they been men and women who have taught us because of their humility, because of their recognition of who they are, and that they don't have it all together, and that they're not perfect, and that they're not innocent, and that they're not without fault? These are people, at least I have found in my own life, some of the best teachers are the ones who have been able to share with me the struggles that have been part of their everyday life. And certainly we all know that that is at the very heart of individuals who come together in AA groups. They begin by acknowledging who they are, their name, and I am an alcoholic. They acknowledge the struggle that is a part of their lives. They are always attentive to the beams that are present in their own eyes. And because of that, once we can tell the story of our own personal struggles and our own personal faults, and we can acknowledge those without having to be ashamed, without having to somehow think that we are less than the other because of it, why then we become, my friends, more human. We become people of greater humility. And in that humanness, in that humility, comes the ability for transformation to happen. And that's what Jesus is trying to teach those first disciples and you and I today, of what it means to be attentive to the beams in our own eyes, and not so much just those splinters in our brother or sister's eyes. We all have woodworking that needs to be done. Which reminds me of a recent visit that I had with a young man, 19, soon to be 20 years of age. We sat at a table together after a funeral. We were having lunch together, and I asked him if he was going to school, and he said, "Nope, Father Steve, not going to school." He said, "I work with my hands. I'm a woodworker. I make tabletops out of real wood." And I was fascinated as I visited with him because you could tell in his eyes that there was a passion. There was a passion around the work that he did. I said, "Obviously you love what you do." And he said, "I love it beyond my being able to tell you how much I love it." He said, "It's not even work for me, although it's hard work." He said, "I enjoy it with every fiber of my being." "How did you know that this was something that you were supposed to do?" I asked him. He said, "Well, I just gave it a try." And he said, "And I'm really good at it." "Have you always been that good at it?" He said, "Oh, no. No," he said, "I had to be taught. I had to be taught by this incredible boss that I have, who has promised me that he would take me under his wing and he would show me everything that he knows about woodworking." And he said, "And it's made all the difference in the world." My friends, I share that story with you because we have the master carpenter. We have Jesus Christ, who knows his way around wood. And he reminds us that splinters and beams, why, they abound, and they're part of our daily life. And you and I need to learn how to work with the splinters and the beams that are present in our life first, so that then we can help others tend to the splinters and the beams that are in their eyes. And the only way we can do that is to know what our own struggles are, to name them, and to tell the story about them. To not be afraid, to not be ashamed, to not think that we are less than because of it, but rather it is in the sharing of our struggles that together we become incredible woodworkers. People that can take these splinters and beams and transform them into something useful, like a table where we all gather around to eat.